So I know you're super nervous. So
You like
just
my
whatever.
Trick or Treat cup?
It's not Halloween.
Fuck you.
It is January.
Yeah.
So it's Mickey Mouse.
It is Mickey Mouse. We all love Mickey Mouse.
Don't hate on him.
I think they're just hating on your cup, not Mickey.
Yeah. Because Mickey's adorable.
Everybody loves Mickey.
And I love Minnie's dresses.
And the Bonobos.
You could pull them off. All of them.
Dude, I love all of her dresses. Like, any dress from that time period, I'm like, yes.
You pull them off well.
I need those.
She has a few of them.
I can see it.
I know.
Does she
The
have
one I
rose
had, like, ripped on, like, the strap. And I was like, no.
I know
It's
someone
like...
that can fix it. Okay.
She has a few of them that needs fixed.
Okay, hit me up. I can help you.
Yes, because I love those.
Bring your
I'm
mini
like,
dreams to
yes.
reality.
Oh, man. Dude, all about it. All about it.
I can do it.
I love the whole dress from that time era. We went to go watch The New Color Purple.
Uh-huh.
And the ending, like, musicals, not the, like, the way ending musical scene, but when they are in her sewing shop store, their outfits were, of course, they have, you know, the longer dresses and whatever, they're all sparkly, but then they switched to, like, the pantsuits, the high-rise pantsuits with, like, the cute shirts and the heels. I'm like, I need every single one of those pairs of shoes. I
Oh my god,
love
all the
those.
shoes in that movie were awesome.
Yeah, we're amazing. I'm like, oh my god, look at the
And then
shoes.
I fell asleep
Look
and I
at
was
the
like,
shoes.
fuck.
I know. I look over and you're like,
How'd you fall
passed
asleep?
out. Anytime she gets into the movie theater,
Oh,
she
it's
is
like
out.
Dreamland for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I
that's
was like,
the-
why do I even pay for a ticket for you?
Yeah.
Sit out in the car and go to bed.
Because that's the best sleep I've ever get.
You should get a half price
It is
ticket.
Right?
worth that $10. Like, okay, so I know
For
I will
sure.
pay for my seat,
Lean that recliner back and just
but I will be
Just
asleep
gone.
the whole time.
do you
So,
snore?
No.
Well, that's good for all the other movie
Yeah.
goers.
I know. She'll be like awake and then you look back over and you're like, what? Like, how did yeah, and then she'll like, you'll be like, okay, well, she's out. And then you're like watching the movie and she'll pop off and say something. You're like, dude, you had like no pulse like 2 seconds
were
ago. Like,
I used to scare the shit out of mom when she would have
yeah. Because I'd always sit in the middle. So I'd have a kid on each side. And she would just like, she'd just, I'm alive. And she'd come up with something like, oh.
Thank you.
She's like, oh my god. I'm like, hey mom,
Yeah.
what up?
She's to the land of the living.
I'm a super light sleeper though.
Yeah. Well, unless you're here.
Yeah, no.
And then she's out. It's the safe
Out
place. That being a mom.
Yeah.
The
Mom's
thing.
always a safe place.
Yeah. Right, you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, everybody. Hey everybody, welcome to Smile Girl Don't Be Nervous. I am Juana, and I'm the mom.
I'm Esperanza, I'm another daughter.
And we have a special guest speaker with us. This is Miss Jen.
Hey.
You want to give us an introduction about you? Tell you a little bit about it? You know, like,
My
how do you
name is
know
Jen.
us?
Most people think I'm pretty cool.
Yeah, she's pretty awesome. Legit.
I have 3 boys. That's how we know each other.
Yes.
The kids grew up together.
Yeah.
That's been fun, raising
Oh,
children
man.
together this day and age.
Yeah.
Um,
I was literally telling somebody the other day, I was like, I would call her and just be a mess. I mean, just a mess. And
It
she's
happens.
like, oh no, it's fine. It's fine. Like,
we will all survive.
yeah.
We will all make it till the end.
Yeah. Yep. So I was like, she was that one friend that I could just call and have no judgment and, you know, like.
Everybody needs people.
Like, yes. Yep. So what brought you here? What, have you watched any of the episodes?
I have not
Have
yet.
you? Okay.
I
all right.
honestly
That's
looked
okay.
for them and I couldn't find them, so you're gonna
Oh,
have to send me
I
one.
know. Okay, so I have been hearing
You're
that a
hiding.
lot. And so I don't know, like, what
Every
is
time
going on.
every time I just look up Smile Girl Don't Be Nervous, it pops up right away for me.
Really?
Yeah.
You must have good luck.
So it's on YouTube. It's specifically just on YouTube right
I
now.
was looking on podcasts.
Okay, yeah. No, so it's
Okay,
specifically
good to know.
just on YouTube right now. But Anthony has spliced the audio from the video that we have for YouTube so that I can upload them into an actual like iTunes podcast.
Okay.
So that is the next step. That's coming this year, like
Yeah.
probably
That's
before
exciting.
the end of this month. Yeah, so I'm like real nervous about it.
That's awesome.
Constantly freaking out.
Yeah, I'm like, wait. I am constantly on the phone because there's a group chat with all of us in it, and I'm like, tick, 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 and then tick, 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 and then what about like this? And have you done this? And are you still coming over it? Because we need to talk about this, and don't forget, like, and I'm just.
And normally it's fine, but she does it at like 4 o'clock in the morning.
I do.
Oh. Well,
'Cause-
why is your phone on at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Because I have my phone on at all times.
I mean, like, that's a legit question.
and I have it like on like not silent,
There's
just
not
in case
disturbed
like
for a reason.
yeah, but like if she needs me or if Anthony needs me or if my godmother needs
That's
me,
why then only certain people can get through.
right? But like.
Right.
But like if she's one of those people, it'll still go off, so there's no point in
Right.
having it on do not
Right.
disturb.
That's why I don't call. I just message because then I figure you guys will see it when you guys wake up.
and then I hear
Well, because like Anthony's already
You're, like,
awake.
yeah.
Yeah. So Anthony's already awake, and then I'm awake.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are.
And
I
then-
am not.
Yeah.
I do not have a pulse.
Well, and then like, cause I wake up and I'm like, oh well, I was thinking about this in my dream, and so then I have to like do all of these things, and then I get more ideas when I'm in the shower, cause that's where you get all of your best ideas.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, get out the shower and I'm wrapped up in a towel and I'm like, oh yeah, and then there's this and this and this, and then there's this and this and this.
I'm always texting back. I'm like, dude,
Yeah.
it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. It's
She's like, it's daytime. I'm like, oh.
yeah, but then you don't get anything from me after 7, because then that's when I start working, and then I'm super absorbed in work. So
yeah, that's the
That's a
time that
good
I'm
time.
like awake. Like I'm a night owl. Like normally I would be asleep right now. This is my nap time.
yeah. Oh, she's got a weird schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
No.
No, I can't either.
Having a nap time?
No.
No.
I take naps in class just so I can get my naps.
Wow, they're cool with that.
Yep. Dude, she lets us like sprawl out in the chairs. We have blankets. She's like, yeah, do not get a fuck. But I'm also only like month 2 in, and I'm on chapter 20 already of my
Right.
homework. So
Yeah, she's
good.
going through it.
yeah, just fucking
Get
go.
it.
And she was like, yeah, you know, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Deuces, I'm leaving
All
for the
right.
day.
As long as you get your hours in, right?
Yep.
That's really what matters.
Yeah.
So the holidays that we are celebrating for this week is we have Martin Luther King Jr. Day
Ooh.
on February 15th. So that's super exciting. It's always a good thing. I love MLK Day.
I always forget that we like recorded in advance. I'm like, that's a long ways away, Mom. And I'm like, wait, no, that's like this week for
It's
them.
coming up soon.
Yeah, it is. Well, and these episodes roll by so quickly.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to Aaron last night.
He texted me.
And he's so cute. I just love him so
I
much.
adore him.
I know. He just holds a special place in my heart. And he's like, how's it going? I'm like, pretty good. You know, we're like on month 5 of doing this. And it still sounds so weird to say that.
Yeah.
And so he's going to sign up for an episode for this year.
He told me.
I know,
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And he was like, I don't remember. Did I sign up for one or not? And I was like, yeah, let me double check. And he signed up for like episode 163. And I'm like, Aaron, we're at like 71 by the end of this year, bro. Like, that's in like 2 years from now.
That's a while. You know.
So he's like, okay,
Maybe
let
that
me
one
look it
too.
over. yeah, he'll definitely be on that too. All right, so remember to like, share, and hit the bell for notifications for when our episodes drop. We are dropping lots of different episodes, not only the episodes that we record, but we are also doing bonus episodes, behind the scenes stuff, and that kind of thing. Starting this year, you should have at least 2 of them already uploaded by the time you see this video. So,
I die this bitch.
she's always dying, I swear.
You know, my body's sometimes just like, yeah, now's the time. Just go, 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 go,
This
go.
is it. No.
Wait,
Just kidding.
I was just playing. Why'd you panic?
Yeah, the struggle is real. Alright, so trigger warnings and advisories for this episode. We are going to be talking about maybe some mental illness in this episode. We kind of had to switch this episode up because I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. The study that I previously had before I didn't like. It was going more towards free will, and I feel like that is such a big topic to fit into like an hour and a half, maybe. And that wasn't really the direction that I wanted to go. So I found an article that focused more on spiritual gifts, based on the quote and the direction that I wanted to go, specifically with you, because I think you have a lot to talk about when we talk about spiritual gifts. So the quote that we're covering today, it says, "And once I give a gift," and she's talking about free will, "I never take it away. The gift becomes the person, and were I to step in and command obedience, especially in the form of extracting affinities, I would destroy the person." So the context of this quote is, okay, so first of all, this quote is from Untamed. This is from the House of Night series written by PC and Kristen Cass.
Is this the first
This
one
is
of
the
them?
first
Wow.
quote of Untamed. Yes, we finished Chosen last week.
So is this book 3?
This is book 4.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's book 3.
I'm pretty sure it's book 4 because we had Marked, Betrayed, Chosen, and Untamed now.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're 4. Yeah, so we're 4. I'll put a picture up so you can see it. Big shout out to Commerce County Libraries also, by the way, because they are fabulous in working with us and making sure we take bomb trips to go check out books from their libraries all the time. And they have allowed us to use their logo in spreading the word for them. So if you get a chance to go see any Carbon County libraries, so that would be Glen Rock or Douglas, please hit them up because they are all amazing in
Gillette's
both of
good
those
too.
libraries. Gillette's pretty good too. Gillette's got a really cool setup.
Yeah.
So anyways, so the context for this quote, Zoe and Aphrodite, and Aphrodite is the prophetess. They're talking with Nyx, and Nyx is the personification of night. Okay, and she's telling them to rely on each other because they will need each other in this journey. Zoe tells Nyx that she needs to stop the war between the vampires and the humans because Nyx possibly can't want this war. Nyx tells her that she doesn't want the war, so Zoe tells Nyx that Nyx needs to tell the vampires to stop the war because Neferet needs to do what Nyx commands. Since Neferet is Nyx's high priestess, Zoe is of the mind that Neferet needs to obey Nyx because Nyx is the boss, essentially. So Nyx then asks, "Do you know what it is, and what is the greatest gift I have ever given my children?" Zoe couldn't come up with an answer, and Aphrodite says free will. So Nyx says correct, and then she says this line. So Nyx is basically talking about if you take away someone's free will, then that essentially changes the person itself, right? Themselves. Because you take away their freedom of choice and, the ability to do whatever they want to do. It takes away their thought process, that kind of thing. What do you guys think? Yeah, you agree? Agree.
Oh yeah.
So the article that I found for this one is called "Churchgoers Tap Hidden Gifts" by Mary A. Jacobs. I found one that I can read all of the names. I'm so excited.
Look at you go.
I know. Nailed it. I know I nailed that one for sure. And so it starts off by saying, "A New Testament describes spiritual gifts such as administration, hospitality, and prophecy, and teaches that God gives each person gifts to be used for the spiritual benefit of the community." Now, ironically, you just came from church.
I sure did.
So do you see this in church? Do you see this in every church you go to? Like, what's your perspective on that particular line?
On spiritual gifts
Yes.
in church?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think, yes, I think everyone carries gifts. Everyone carries spiritual gifts because they're part of your identity. They're part of who God has made you. And I see a lot of people think that they're just natural talents or natural abilities, but I think our spiritual gifts, in quotes, are interwoven into our identity, interwoven into who we've always been from childhood,
Mm-hmm.
because those are the things that that light us up the most, those things that we see, that we've always seen within us. And then God joins hands with those things and is like, oh, this is who you're made to be. And this is a gift that I have given you because I created you.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So yes. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of recognition that people need to give to their identities in that regard of how they see themselves carrying gifts. I don't think that people have just one gift. I think people can tap into many different gifted abilities that have been given. But it's a matter of like saying yes to that part of you and not hiding, because oftentimes we don't see ourselves as worthy
Right.
of carrying these parts of us.
Yeah, because it comes
Or
across as a
prideful.
big job
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all for gifts.
Okay.
And when you're not walking in them, you're not walking in yourself.
Yeah, yeah. When you're not really holding yourself accountable for that.
Yes.
It really takes away from your journey in life, your journey with yourself, your journey with others, your spiritual journey.
Yeah.
Like it definitely takes away from that, not being who you are. But going back to being authentic, which is like episode 2, that's a really big thing.
For sure.
Okay, so just a little background on how the knowledge of spiritual gifts came to be. So spiritual inventories first blossomed in the early 1980s with the publication of Your Spiritual Gifts Can Help Your Church Grow by C. Peter Wagner. The inventories generally consist of several dozen multiple choice questions. The answers are scored, and the final tally is supposed to pinpoint which spiritual gifts are strongest in an individual. So I remember going to Highland Park, and this was one of the tests that were in one of our classes.
I like that.
And it was so cool to see. And I combed through my emails. I couldn't find it. I couldn't find like what my answers were, because they give you like your top 3. And the only one that I specifically remember being in that list was discernment. And in talking with Aaron last night, he's like, "Oh yeah, I could totally see that." I'm like, I don't see that. And
you can kind of see BS from a mile away. So there is that.
There is that.
Truth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the nutshell of discernment.
We actually talked about that in the lying episode, didn't we? So I guess I get a little confused by it, because it specifically talks about the discernment of spirits when they talk about discernment. So can you clarify that for me just a little bit? Because it talks about the discernment of spirits, and it's talking about discerning the true message of God.
Okay. So in that regard, discernment of spirits, from my understanding, I am not a scholar on this.
Right.
But is like, so everybody carries a certain spirit about them, right? So either the spirit of the human being or the spirit, actual like spirit, right? So what spirit do people carry? So discerning, and then of course discerning the true message of God. So do you have the ability within yourself to hear and understand truth relatively easily? Like when someone is speaking to you, do you know that you know inside yourself that is a bunch of crap? Or do you know that you know inside yourself, man, what they're saying affirms what I know to be true?
Right.
And are you easily swayed by people and their
No.
belief systems?
People think I'm really argumentative because of it.
Okay.
Because I'm like, no. I get your perspective, but I don't think that's right, and here's why. And they're like, you're just arguing, and I'm like, I'm just trying to have a discussion. Like,
I got into a lot of trouble at school for that. Because I'll be like, no. Here's why. And they're like, I'm the teacher. I don't care. You're wrong, and here's why.
Right. And I think a lot of that comes from generational differences and age differences, and especially if you're in like the school environment, you know, the teacher's always supposed to be right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that like Anthony got into a lot of trouble for that.
I got into some
A
for that.
lot.
I've almost gotten fired from my job for the same thing.
Always in the principal's office for Anthony.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like mine was for stupid
right.
stuff.
What did he say this time?
I don't think he ever went to the principal's office for me though. You got called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always got called, but I never had to show up.
For me, no.
No. Mm-mm. I always got the.
Pat on the back.
Thanks.
I know.
I'm a good kid.
I know.
Sometimes.
I always got the Miss Simmental. Is there any possible way you could come to the school? And I'm like, oh yeah, give me a second. Let me wrap up what I'm doing. I will be right there.
Got in trouble for my senior picture.
And then I'd walk in the office and Anthony'd be in a chair just chilling. He's like,
Hey.
what's up? Okay, so in regards to the church, this line says, it's a bottom-up approach, said Steve Haar, another member of Hope Lutheran. Instead of starting with a task, then trying to figure out who we can rope into doing it, we start by understanding what our gifts are. At various times in history, he said lay people have de-emphasized the search for their own spiritual gifts, regulating surface within the worship community to professional clergy. So just relying on, you know, the pastor, bishop, you know, priest, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the leaders in order to have those spiritual gifts, and no, everybody else just kind of follows along. In the early 20th century, he said the rise of Pentecostalism brought an emphasis on gifts of the Spirit, including speaking in tongues. But this caused many conservative Christians to shy away from spiritual gifts. So that brought me back to the church we used to go to in Cheyenne. We were Pentecostal Christian in Cheyenne when we started going to church with Tara and Eddie. And they were Pentecostal. And you probably weren't there because you were always in kids' church. Every once in a while you'd be up on top with us. But they did a lot of speaking in tongues. You were like preschool. You were Head Start.
Oh yeah, so clearly I don't remember.
Yeah, so you were always in the kids' church downstairs. But there was
I hated when you used to leave me down there.
So there was a lot of speaking in tongues in that church, and I know a lot of people get really uncomfortable with that. Does your church?
We do practice
Okay.
speaking in tongues.
Okay.
It's not like over the top and crazy like some people are.
Right.
I have no like judgment against people that do
Right.
have it what I feel over the top and crazy. Like
Right.
that's but yeah, we believe that that is a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like for the edification of the body,
Mm-hmm.
for the edification of yourself, to be able to speak something that you may not understand,
Right.
to be able to have God minister to you in a way that you may not recognize.
Right. Yeah. It's a channel.
Yes.
It's a channel.
Yes.
You know. And I think that is amazing. Those that can, you know, channel through the speaking in tongues, and then those that can translate it. So like
Yes.
in the specific church that I'm thinking of, and I can't remember for the life of me what that church was called, but Pastor Tom Perea in Cheyenne, he's the church on the south side. I think it's called Word of God.
Mm-hmm.
He led a great congregation, him and his wife, and it was really, you know, welcoming, and it was really cool to go there. But when you would have someone speaking in tongues during church service, there would always be someone translating right next, not like right next to them, but you know, somebody in the congregation would be translating as they're speaking in tongues, and so it would just be really quiet, and you could hear a pin drop because everybody was so in tune with the message that was coming through, and so that was really, really interesting to experience. It was way cool. It was way cool. You know, I have had the opportunity to go to church in different, you know, churches and stuff and see things like that, and I'm just like, this is so cool.
I don't understand that at all. I mean, I have a friend who, the first time she realized she was understanding what people were saying, she was sitting next to me in church, and somebody was speaking in tongues next to her, like during a worship setting, and they were just praying in tongues. And she thought the person was speaking in English. She literally thought they were speaking English because she knew everything that was being said.
Right.
And I was like, no, that person was not speaking English. I have no idea what they were saying. And she was like, I understood it. Oh my God, I understood it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can do that?
Yeah. It's so crazy cool. But then you think about like just basic language in general. Like we do it all the time when we go through like a Mexican restaurant drive-through, and Mama's like, they'll be talking to me in Spanish, and my brain's going 17 different directions. Like the last thing I'm worried about is ordering it through the Mexican drive-through, right? Yeah. So I am on, where I gotta go next, and what I gotta do in errands, and when I'm picking up at Walmart, and how, like what time is it? Do I have, like I have so many things that I'm going through, and so I'm ordering and I'm answering, and we're having a conversation, and Mama is always like, Mom, they were speaking in Spanish, like the whole time, and I was like, man,
Are you speaking back in Spanish?
Bobby.
Or English?
No, in English. In English, yeah.
Okay.
And, and it's not that I don't speak Spanish, because I do. I'm actually pretty fluent in it. It's just been a little bit, so it takes me just a minute to catch back on. I understand way more than I speak, but, just back and forth. And
very little.
Yeah.
Anytime there was Spanish brought up in the house, I was out the house.
Yeah, because then I turn into a different person when I was being Spanish. So
Yeah,
everybody flees.
Yeah, Mom is manifesting.
Yeah.
We're like fucking cockroaches around here. Oh, shit,
and I'm out.
Yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, and then I'm like,
at least you know you need to go.
Where are the kids?
And she's like, what happened?
That's funny.
You turned psycho. What do you mean? What happened?
That may not be your spiritual gift.
It's not. It's most definitely not.
No.
Yeah, I'm a whole different person on that side. Yeah, so it was very interesting to see. It's really interesting to experience, and we had talked last week, in going to the Southern Baptist Church on the west side in Cheyenne, and it's a predominantly African American Black church, and the spirit is so tangible when you go into those churches, and that is one of the things that I love the most about churches where you can walk in and you can feel it. And so that's always just so amazing to me. There are some churches that we both have walked in and we're like, ugh, this doesn't feel right. Oh man, there's one particular church here in Casper where every time we pass by we just get sick to our stomach. And we went to an event there before, and it was
scary.
It was
jive with
yeah.
it.
No. Like we were seeing people, we were watching things, we were feeling things, and it was not. It doesn't even make me feel good right now. I got chills. Like I just don't. Yeah. So it's just a vibe that you get, and I don't know how else to explain it because I know not everybody feels that. So this talks about even the most enthusiastic advocates of spiritual gifts and inventories caution that the tools should not be viewed as a quick route to easy answers. It's a first step in an ongoing discernment process that involves prayer and experimentation. So yeah, just because you've taken a quiz and this is what it says, that doesn't necessarily mean, because maybe you're not ready for those. Have you come across something where you have seen that in somebody? Where they're just not ready to step into their own gifts?
Yeah, I think there's a confidence.
Okay.
I think there's a confidence that people need to respond to. Let's just look at, say you really want to be a giver. Say you really want to give financially, you really want to do all these things, like above and beyond what people do, like that's really your heart. But you have no money.
Right.
Say you're in a place where you're paycheck to paycheck, you have nothing to give.
Right.
Maybe you're working full time, you don't have the time that it takes to give. And so I think sometimes people feel discouraged by that when they want so desperately to do something, but they don't have the ability, like in the system we live in, the culture we live in, to
Right.
be able to do those things. And so that can be really discouraging. Or say I have friends who really want to pursue healing, the gift of healing. Like when they pray for someone, that person is healed. And they pray for people, and the people aren't healed. Right?
Super discouraging. You're
It
like,
can be
it
really
didn't work.
discouraging.
It didn't work.
You know, you're like, oh, I just prayed for that person for their headache to go away, and their headache didn't go away. And maybe God doesn't want that for me. Well, that's not actually the case. You know, it can often just mean that was one tick in the mark of that person being healed. Maybe somebody else needs to pray for them too. Oftentimes things like this are like gradual. Things like this are steps, or pray again, or, you know, whatever it may be. Have you really like looked within yourself and discerned, what is it that makes me come alive? You know, what is it inside of me that makes me come alive? That's probably tied to a gifting that I have. I actually hadn't taken a gift inventory in a really long time, so I took one that I found online.
Nice. Okay.
I
Yeah.
just Googled spiritual gift inventory, and I took one, and
A lot pop up.
there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look because now I can't remember what one it said. I put it on my.
Yeah, I'm
took a
totally
picture.
interested.
Yeah, I was interested too because I was like, because I am one of those people that really believes you can have a lot.
Right.
So craftsmanship, which is not on this thing.
I know. So I picked
Hospitality and discernment. Those
Okay.
are my 3 top ones.
Okay. I can see all of those. I can see every one of those.
Yeah. I love to build stuff.
Right.
Like, I love to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the others? Hospitality, yeah. I love having people
Yeah.
doing things, inviting people to my house.
Mm-hmm.
And discernment, I'm like you. I
Yeah.
can sense the BS a mile away, and I'm like, you're not my people.
Which is why we're such a great team against our boys.
Yeah.
It's like, we're like, no. I even talked to Jen, and no.
You guys shouldn't hang with that person. Unless you want to mess.
Yeah. That's a train wreck waiting to happen. For real.
Step up.
I feel like I was like the only girl out of like
You kind of were.
Yeah.
4 boys.
Yeah.
Somehow
Yeah, you kind of
just
were.
got my ass handed to me.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
fine.
you were constantly beat up all the time.
Dude, all
Like
the
you were.
They made you who you are today, though.
It was part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, when everybody's like, "How are you so like? Why are you so mean?" And I'm like, "Well, 'cause she grew up with nothing but guys."
All
Yeah.
the boys.
Like me included, because I was
Yeah.
not a
I'm
girly
a boy
girly.
mom,
Like,
totally. I will wrestle with the best.
yeah, same. Literally, I went over to Anthony's house the other day, and he was like, his apartment flooded, so he has his bed in the living room. And I sat down, I was like, oh man, this is nice. This is a nice bed, right? And he's like, yeah, it's real nice, huh? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Michaela doesn't like it because it's so firm. And I was like, oh man, this is nice. And so I was getting ready to leave, and he was like, and I was like, no, don't. And he like literally picks me up and like body slams me onto the bed. And I was just like, oh yeah. I mean, this thing is like
Boys,
way
man.
back. Yeah, like, this is a thing.
That's what
Total
we
boy
gotta
mom.
Total boy mom.
Yeah, you just gotta roll with it.
You know, I got traumatized with like chains, and, like bikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you not ever hear about that?
No.
Anthony clotheslined me with the rusted chain. I was on a bike and
Yeah.
flipped over the chain. I had a chain marker around my neck.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
dude.
And then he's like, bro, don't tell mom. I'm
Don't
like,
tell mom.
I have to go to the hospital. I can't breathe.
Yeah, don't tell mom. Yeah.
It's a thing.
But yes, I think that a lot of people have gifts and they aren't quite ready to walk in them because they lack the confidence within themselves to be able to be like, hey, this is something I can offer.
Or maybe it's something that they don't know they can.
Right.
You know, because they haven't tried it.
They
you
haven't
know?
tried. Or, well, I mean, like, music. Gift, that is not a gift I have. You don't want me leading worship.
Right.
People will leave.
Right. Well, it's like
People will leave. Anyway.
oh, that's great.
Yeah.
stepped outside of your box to try it, you know? Okay, so it says that she said spiritual gifts represent much more than just areas of aptitude or interest. As you advance in the spiritual life, your gifts become supernaturally empowered, she said. That's what happened in the lives of the saints. And if gifts aren't identified and tapped, she said, the church and the community suffer. It's like receiving a birthday gift that you've never opened. Yeah. So you've seen this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Not only that, but you open it, say you realize what your gifting is in, but then you never practice it. It's just like working out. How are you gonna
Right.
How are you gonna run a mile if you aren't willing to run 30 feet?
Right.
Right. You gotta learn. You gotta grow in it. You've gotta work your muscles, your spiritual gift muscles. That's a real thing.
Right.
Especially for some of these.
Right. So, I wrote down, so this was the list that kept popping up over and over, because I was trying to get, a list of what, because it said there was a, okay, so maybe it was in the article, there was, 12.
1 Corinthians 12 and Romans something.
Yeah, there was, 3, main passages that had, all the gifts lifted underneath it, but... So the biggest ones I got were prophecy, which is speaking forth God's truth, teaching, explaining the Word of God, leadership, guiding others with wisdom and grace, mercy, showing compassion to the distressed, speaking in tongues, speaking in unknown languages, we talked about that, word of wisdom, applying biblical truth with discernment, word of knowledge, revealing truth by revelation, faith, having unshakable confidence in God, discernment of spirits, which is discerning the true message of God, serving, which is ministering to others' needs, encouraging, calling others to heed God's truth, giving, which is sharing what one has with others, healing, performing supernatural healings, miraculous powers, performing supernatural events, interpretation of tongues, which we had talked about, which is understanding and communicating the unknown, and helps, which is aiding those in spiritual battle. So those were the main ones that I had come across. Mama, what have you seen in these?
It's chilly in here.
You were just talking about how hot it was earlier.
I think my fan turned on. Now my hands are warm because I'm holding
So I haven't really ever been a huge spiritual person, I guess. I went to church for about 2.5 seconds. And just didn't ever connect with it. I didn't agree with some of the things I didn't understand. And when I was trying to understand, it came up with more questions. So I just kind of got away from it. So I don't know a lot about any of this.
What do you see in just everyday life? Even just taking it away from church.
What are you good at? If you had to pick from that list.
From that list?
What were you good at as a kid, if you had to pick from that list?
I'd say more leadership.
As a kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you say?
You're always the caregiver.
Yeah.
I mean, MA, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
your name is Mama.
Even though I didn't have much, I gave what I could.
Right. Yeah.
And even if I didn't have it, I'd find a way to get it.
Right.
Helping, you wanted to help.
Yeah, all the time.
You still want to help.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Even though it gets you into some shitty situations, you're like, oh, let me help you. And I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
But they just need help.
Right, like.
There's some nice boundaries, right?
Yeah, she has none.
I'm working on it.
Our gifts can kind of be our weakness.
Absolutely. Like, I think that I think that's the one thing that wasn't covered in this article.
Oh, totally.
Is that they most certainly can be a
You gotta
weakness.
temper them.
There's a because you can't give until you have nothing
Right.
for yourself. You know, you can't help others so much that you're not taking care of yourself.
Right.
That's my problem.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with that too.
Because I take care of I take care of everybody else until I self-destruct.
Mm-hmm.
And then I rebuild myself, and then I do it all over again.
Yep. Yeah.
I have a problem.
You know, I see that there's a plus and minus to all of these. You know.
Oh yeah, one of my boys, he will give everything he has, and then he can't make his car payment.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, dude,
What are you doing?
what are you gonna do this month? You know, you got a car payment to make.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they can definitely shoot you in the foot if you're not being mindful.
Right.
I have that problem too.
Yep. You know, it's one thing to really step into your power and to take ownership of that.
Yes.
You know, and not being prideful of it. Oh, I can do that and I can do this, and you know, the thought that it takes to make those choices, to, you know, whether to use your gift or not. It's such a hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because especially if you are doing a walk with God or whoever your spiritual person is, if you overthink it, then you don't do anything either. And that's not serving, and it's not taking away. I know one of the biggest lessons that really hit me was the other Jen that was in our circle. She was like, why can you not ask for help?
The 3J triple pro.
and I was like, because then if I ask for help, I feel like I'm a burden that way. And she said, if you don't ask for help, you are taking away somebody's ability to bless you.
Oh, totally.
And that fucked me up.
Yeah,
I'm not
fucked
gonna
up
lie.
for a while.
It did. Like, I was a mess for a while over that one. Because then my inner dialogue started, and I was like, oh man, like.
Yeah, you get yourself.
Yep, I fucked that up too. You know, like, and so it was such a huge reality check for me. And I sat with it, and I still didn't know how to receive until just recently.
You still have problems.
I still have problems, but I try and temper it and be like, no, like, I don't need this. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate everything that you do for me. You know? In Justin sponsorship money, and, just other blessings that I have received, and the blessings that I've received in the other companies that I'm helping with, like,
I'm gonna grab my hoodie really quick.
okay, being able to receive those things is a really humbling experience, because you did give that other person an opportunity to bless you, and maybe that is their thing. Maybe giving is their thing. Maybe helping is their thing. And so being able to humble yourself enough to be able to allow other gifts to come to you, as well as give your gifts as well. There's a
give and take.
There is. Is that something that you have learned? Is that something that you struggle with? Is that...
I don't know the verse, but there is a verse in the Bible that talks about the gifts are for the body, to share with one another, because that's what gives us unity. Right? And so if I have a gift and I want to share it with you, like, say I have a word of knowledge where God has, like, directly spoken to me and said, tell this to Juana, this date, this time, this name, and that will mean something to her, to show how much I love her, that I'm speaking something directly to her out of the heart of God. And you don't want to receive it, I mean, that's not on me, that's on you.
Right.
Right. and the same would go if you had something like, say there was a word of wisdom. You were like, Jen, I really feel like this is something that you need to take into account and think about, like say something about raising my kids or something like that, like direction, wisdom, direction. And I'm like, no, I'm not with you on that one, and I'm like a jerk about it. That doesn't bring unity.
No.
Right?
No, because you're like, all right, like
that just brings division.
Yeah.
And that's not kind, and God is kind, ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Love and kind, those are the biggest dynamics of who God is, especially in his people and the body. And so, yeah, we need to receive each other's gifts. We need to honor each other's gifts. We need to be like, hey, I know so-and-so who really hears from the heart of God. And if you want your dream interpreted, or if you want a word from the Lord, like Tim, prophecy, my husband, prophecy is his jam.
Yeah.
That is not my jam.
Yeah.
Tim gets dreams for people, and they're literally spot on accurate.
Right.
I can do that. I get
like,
visions with that one.
Yeah, dreams, visions, all those kinds of things. That's not my thing. But the love and the communication that is received when people listen to that is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that's the heart of God through these gifts.
Right.
That he gives, is so that we can be unified and that we can learn how to love one another better and receive from one another better. So that's
Do
my
you
opinion.
see an issue with that in today's world?
Well, yeah, we're more divisive than we've ever been.
I think so too.
The church, I think, is super divisive, which is really a heartbreaking thing for me, because I'm not about that.
Right.
I'm about unity and love, and like, how can I like, if someone is part of a different belief system in the church and they are the arm and I'm not willing to listen to the arm, that sucks. Whether I agree with all of their viewpoints or not, that doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. It's like, okay, what can I learn from the arm? Because they obviously work a lot different than if I'm, say I'm the knee.
Right.
I'm not going to understand how the bicep works. I'm not going to get it.
Right.
But I can receive that is how they were made and how they were created, and I don't have to understand them. I can love, I can seek to learn what I need to learn from that place.
Right.
And I think oftentimes we're far too critical to criticize.
Oh, yeah. And quick.
Immediately criticize.
Quick to criticize.
And social media hasn't helped that.
Right.
So
Right.
Truth.
Yeah.
we all think we have all the answers, and that's not true.
Right. Right.
It's just not true.
I was talking to a friend, and I was telling him, in order to grow, you have to put yourself in a lot of different circles,
Oh, totally.
and you have to have those hard truths given to you. And sometimes that's not fun,
It will break your boxes.
It will. But you have to be able to come outside of yourself in order to learn sometimes the lessons that we need to move on to the next spot in our journey. And he was totally adamant that you can do self-growth by yourself just by listening to podcasts and stuff. And I'm like, you are absolutely right. You most definitely can. But I don't feel like that is enough to move you to the next level if you are stepping outside of yourself to different communities, to different viewpoints, to different, perspectives. And in learning those things, I just don't feel like that's enough.
No, we are called to community.
Yeah. Yep.
There's seasons where if you're walking alone through your own wilderness, because other people can't handle your wilderness,
Right.
that's one thing.
Right.
But it's a whole nother thing if you're not in a wilderness season, that you're supposed to be alone, learning things alone. No, you're supposed to be in community.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Right. Yeah. No. I totally.
Because we
totally
learn
get
from
that.
one another.
Yeah. And I feel like, Mama, you were in a point not too long ago where you were kind of walking in your own wilderness. You were having to learn some things on your own, and you had a community, but that wasn't what you wanted at that point in time.
Yeah. I pushed a lot of people away because I wanted to be on my own at that point. And I very much pushed everybody away so I could self-destruct. So that way I could come back
To the community.
to the community that I knew I had that would still be there when I was coming and I came back.
Right. Do you feel like life is harder when you're doing those solo trips?
I think it's definitely very needed at points, but you can't stay there.
Right.
Because then it does become hard.
Right.
And I definitely stayed there for a minute.
Maybe longer than you needed.
Yeah.
It's that Taurus energy. She really
Yeah.
stuck in that stubbornness for sure.
But once I realized that people and being in that community is what I love, I had to come back.
Yeah.
Because I love people. I love being around people. I love going out and doing things. I love being around people and just laughing. Or we could sit down on the couch and watch a movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have to go out.
Yeah.
Just being around people and having that presence there with me. So.
I think that was probably one of the things that you liked the most about going to Highland is there was lots of events and community things and, that they were doing, and so it was being involved in doing all of those things.
Belonging for you.
And there are times where you're like, I just don't want to go to church. And I'm like, get your ass up, we're going to church.
Yep.
You're like, okay.
Yeah. And then I was always so happy once we got done, and I'm like, oh man, that was really a message that I needed to hear. Part of being in that community that you're just like, I'd have missed it. Had I not gone, I'd have missed it.
Or like that packaging food. That was like our favorite thing ever.
Oh yeah.
Still miss doing that.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So what thoughts do you have in regards to now that we've had the discussion, what thoughts do you have about these gifts? Like I said, even outside of church.
I think they're very needed. I think not every single one of them is going to correlate to every single person.
Right. Yeah.
But a lot of them can go into one person.
Well, I think of, you had brought it up about, having a message for someone, and I remember distinctly I was at Outback, and I was working, and I saw a server, and for some reason this message kept going through my mind, and I was like, man, I hate doing this because
It's uncomfortable.
it is, like on my side, and then like the other side, you're like, okay, so I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but I just need to tell you this, so just give me a second.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what I did, and I was like, hey, baby girl, like I don't know why, I feel you need to hear this, and I told her a couple of things, and she looked at me, and she goes, oh my God, who told you? And I was like, yo, man, like I just walked in the door like 10 minutes ago, I have no idea what's going on, and her and her boyfriend had just broken up, and she was fighting with her parents over a whole bunch of drama that had happened in between them, and it was the perfect message that she needed to hear, that she wasn't failing. And she just started bawling, and I was like, oh my God, okay, come here. Because I was just like, I was not ready for that. I had no idea what was going on. She hadn't talked to anybody in the restaurant about what was happening. And then I had this message for her, and I was just like,
How did that make you feel?
afterwards, I was like, I'm totally crazy. Like, because I'm like, I don't know where these things come from. I just know things. They just pop in. I used to do it all the time when I was in like junior high and high school. You know, people would be talking and I'd be like, well, here's how this is going to work out. And then boom, 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 boom. And then everybody's like, oh, yeah, right. Blah, blah, blah. And then like, I wouldn't even be involved in it. And they'd come back and they'd be like, how'd you know? And I'm like, what are you talking about? You know? And it was just a consistent thing that had happened during that time in my life. And then it went away for a really long time. And then I started getting it back more and more as I was going through the kids' teenage walk.
Right.
And so it started coming back, and so there would be times where I would sit down with you, or I'd sit down with Anthony, or, you know, and be like, hey, like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but here's this, bleh, you know, and it would be, there were lots of emotions, and I don't really know how to handle emotions, and so I'm like, oh man, okay, do you need a hug? Do I need to be here? Do you need a minute? You know, and so that's probably where I struggle, is because I didn't know where these messages were coming from. I didn't know how I know things. And everybody would be like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know. And so then everybody gets mad because, well, that you've got to know something. Bro, like, I am telling you, I don't know nothing about your situation. I just know.
Yeah.
So it causes a lot of resistance. So I just stopped.
That's challenging.
I stopped.
If you're not in a place that is cultivating those things.
Right.
Like the church I go to has a school. And the school it's truly about discovering who you are in light of your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you're at in your relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And there's literally exercises. So there's one of the exercises, and it helps people get comfortable, because a lot of these things are uncomfortable
They are.
for us.
Yeah.
Right?
In so many different ways.
And like there'll be like literally like you and I would be sitting back to back. You don't know who you're sitting back to back with.
Okay.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea.
Nope.
You take a few minutes, you listen, and whatever comes to your mind. Could be the color purple.
Right.
Right? And I would turn around and I would say, I saw purple. What does that mean for you? And you would be like, oh my God, I just went and saw the color purple last week, and it ministered to me in this way, and blah, blah, blah. And you would be encouraged, and I would be encouraged. And
right.
we would
Wow.
be like, oh my gosh,
That is
I
really
can do
cool.
this.
Right.
Yeah, like,
Fuck that.
Right.
I got trauma. Nope.
We can work through that another time. You know, and so it helps people to be more comfortable in these things that feel so uncomfortable.
Right.
And be like, oh,
Right.
when I hear these things, that's actually the voice of God speaking to me
Mm-hmm.
for another person.
Right.
And he sees me as worthy to do this.
Mhm.
That's pretty rad.
Right. Right. That's
Sick.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal.
That's pretty rad. You know,
yeah.
that he entrusts people,
Right.
our flawed selves, to be able to minister
Right.
love to another human being. That's pretty cool.
So why do you think there's such that discrepancy? I don't think that's what I'm looking for. That other people don't want to hear that. Why do people get so offended and turned off and angry about that?
About people exercising spiritual gifts?
Yes.
Oh, I think fear is a big thing.
Yeah.
The fear of being wrong. I think, especially in some Christian circles, they really like to control the atmosphere. And for me, personally, control, if I want to control the atmosphere, then I don't want to receive these things because they feel out of control for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so it's easier to get angry than it is to actually do your homework and
Sit with it.
sit with it for a minute.
Mhm.
It's easier to get angry and be like, oh, God doesn't do that anymore. It's easier to write people off.
Mhm.
And that's really unfortunate. And
Right.
It's just really unfortunate.
Right. Well, if you think of it in like the biblical terms, you know, Jesus was in those circles all the time,
Oh, yeah.
you know.
And he got friggin' mad.
He did. He did. That,
He was not happy about
yeah. Probably one of my most favorite parts is when he goes in and just is just wrecking the whole
Pit
temple,
of
you know,
vipers.
like he's like throwing
These were
tables
Christians,
and like,
you know,
and I
like-
was like, oh man, like you done
Yeah.
did it now.
Den of vipers. That's
You know.
not very nice.
Yeah. And so it's just, I find that the older I get, the more I step into these gifts.
Comfortable with your own skin.
Yes.
Mhm.
You know, because there isn't anything that you're going to tell me that I haven't already heard, first of all. Because I'm like 40 some years, trust me, you can't come up with anything new at this point. You know, then in having this channel and this podcast and going through numerous situations with kids, and they're two very different paths, you know, and just life in general, and learning with life experience, with, you know, my past trauma and overcoming that and breaking those cycles and counseling and, you know, just all of the healing that has come in just getting older and experiencing and growing up. The more I receive more of these, the more I receive, we talked about it in a couple episodes, that, you know, I'm seeing more, where I thought I didn't have that before, and now I realize that I do, and I did before, and I turned it off.
Yeah.
You know, and so have you seen that too, where they have things and then they turn them off?
Yes. I think, I mean, like what you just said, trauma, right? Like,
yeah.
yes, trauma. Trauma is a big deal. And just because you have a relationship with God doesn't mean you don't experience trauma.
Right. Right.
There is no promises that trauma will not befall you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you can step out in something, or you can have somebody. I mean, I had somebody give me a word of prophecy 20 some years ago. I've been married for 25 years now. 23 years ago or so, this person gave me a prophecy, a word, and they said, Tim is going to cheat on you, so just be prepared.
Oh.
You know, and like be prepared for when that happens. And I was like, excuse me, that isn't prophecy.
Right.
Number one.
Right.
And I am not going to join my heart with that word.
Yeah. No.
You know,
no.
like I am not going to
No.
tie into that. You know,
That man is
I
crazy
do
about
not
you.
receive,
Like.
I do not receive that as a word from God.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and so if
That's
I
part
had,
of the discernment.
yeah, that's discernment. If I had received that as a word from God, as this prophecy that someone had given me, that would cause me some trauma.
Right.
And what would I be doing? I would be looking around every corner.
Oh yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
oh, is this the person he's gonna cheat on me with?
Right.
You know, like, oh, he's talking to that girl. Should I be nervous right now? You know,
No.
and
No.
so yes, I think people can either hear wrong, right, and hurt people
Mhm.
unknowingly. Because
Mhm.
I've discussed it with the person that gave me that. I've had an open conversation with them and said, hey, when that happened, that was not cool,
Right.
and I'd like to talk about it,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
Right. Where did this come from?
yeah,
How did this
like-
come to you?
Like, you know, what did you think you know was being accomplished?
Right.
You know, basically. And we are good. Like, we're good. Like, everything is fine. But yes, and so I think people, because of fear, because of trauma, people can turn off their gifts.
Yes.
But what does that leave within you? Like, when you do that, there is an emptiness.
Yeah.
There is a void, because you know you're not living from your true heart.
Right. We had talked about it, and when we have turned off our gifts, that is when we have because all three of us have some pretty significant gifts. Those were the times when our health went into decline rapidly and hard
Yeah. That makes sense.
by turning those off.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Because then you internalize it, and then your body's fighting itself,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. When you're not living from your true heart,
Mm-hmm.
sadly other things grow.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And those were dark times. Those are always dark times.
Yeah.
When those things happen.
So even if you're afraid of it, you move into it. Even if you're afraid of it, you give it the time of day and
Right.
be like, hey, I'm sorry that I have turned this part of me off.
Right.
And I am going to do my best to start turning this on when I can.
Right. Oddly, that was the thought process that I had when we were watching Frozen. Remember? Like, I think I was talking to you about it in the movie theater. I'm like, why didn't anybody just take her out in the middle of nowhere and just, like, have her practice with it and see what she could do with it?
Yeah.
You know, instead of being like, no, you don't have that.
She had to conceal.
You don't have that. Yeah.
So she
Conceal,
was-
don't feel.
Yeah.
Right. Because
You
she was
know.
afraid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if that fear was overriding her power.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's very normal. And that's why the church I go to has this school. So that people can explore these things.
Right.
And they can be like, that was not mine, and I'm okay with that.
I was so lost.
You know, but I really noticed this is cool for me, and I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I liked it.
Right.
Or this to give me joy the way it did.
That's a great lesson.
It's pretty cool.
And that's real innovative, because I don't
Yeah.
think a lot of churches are willing. I mean, I haven't been to church in a really long time, so I may be speaking out of turn, but the churches that I have gone to, that is all seen as a threat because it's coming from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really interesting and innovative that is something that your church is offering. So that sounds really cool.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I love that idea.
You
That's
know?
way amazing.
Especially if you feel safe.
Right.
If you feel like you're in a safe environment and you're not going to be judged or condemned or have a stone thrown at you.
Yeah. It totally.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like that changes the relationship in anything. I mean, we have had numerous conversations where we have talked about the most important thing is for our kids to feel safe with us and to tell us these things.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and your
Fall
boys.
in your own home.
Yeah.
Fall in your own home.
You
So
know,
when you get out of it,
you're
you know how to
good.
stand.
You're good. Yeah.
And it's the same thing.
And your relationship with your boys is very similar to mine, you know,
Mhm.
with the kids, because your boys tell you everything too.
Oh, we have talks.
Yeah.
Like,
Right now.
There's sometimes I'm like,
oh god, I know, right? I wasn't ready for that, but all right,
There's
let's
sometimes I'm
talk
like,
about it.
she didn't have to know that. My bad. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Great, just give me a second. I'm gonna go use the bathroom really quick. I will be right back. And you're literally just like, oh god.
I'm gonna go vomit for you.
Okay. I will be right back.
There's
2 seconds.
There's sometimes where she's like, you're handling this really well. And I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah.
What can I do now?
Yeah. What's done is done, you know? And I feel like if I were to create a church, it would be centered around that. You know, being safe and no judgment, and you know, we're always here to help, and the acceptance and the
It
hard
doesn't
truths.
mean we don't call you to a higher level.
That's what I'm saying, like, right? Because there's
You know.
the kids know that they can tell me anything, but they know I'm
If
gonna be
you're
like,
royally
dude,
effed up,
like you would, yeah. What?
then
How
we
did
should
you
learn
think that
from
was
this.
gonna go? I can't tell you how many times the kids have heard that. How did you really think that was gonna play out?
There was
How
one
did you
time.
think that was gonna
There was one time in Seattle.
go?
I was having some problems with my ex-boyfriend. Boyfriend at the time. She was like, "How fucking stupid can you be?" I was like, "Yeah, nothing. Thanks, mom."
Yeah.
Click, and she goes back. She's like, "I didn't mean to say it that way." I was like, "But you did."
No, you did.
Yep.
I
I
often
did.
say, how
I did.
did that work out for you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please.
Yep. Yeah, Anthony has gotten into saying that too. How did you think that was gonna work out? I was like, ooh. And there's me. There's all right. I gotta go.
Yeah, and I'm like, all of it.
Because it's always coming at her. And so that
Mm-hmm.
being safe and being open and being safe also
Vulnerability.
Oh, so big on vulnerability, because just because it's a safe place doesn't mean that you're not going to hear those hard lessons.
Right.
That's not what that means
Yes.
at all.
You
Just
can be accepted and directed at the same time.
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. What you got?
I hate being vulnerable. My last relationship was because I would not be vulnerable.
I feel like it's
Well, that's
something
why
that you have
get
to practice.
Pick. Yeah, and you get to pick who's worthy of your vulnerability.
Yeah, because not everybody is.
He just like,
is.
and I'm like, wait, I'm not ready.
Yeah, not everybody is worthy to hear your story in the beginning.
Yeah.
No.
And I told him, I was like, I'm really, like, I'm glad that you felt safe enough to tell me your story. I'm proud of you for doing that, because you stood up and you felt safe enough to do so. I'm glad I could be there for you.
Right.
I just
Not
can't do
ready
the
yet.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. And that takes time.
Yeah.
That takes time. And having those actions show that you are safe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, what do we think about this quote in general? Do you agree? Disagree?
I'm down for it.
Yeah. I think the one thing that I didn't cover that I really want to cover really fast is, so taking any of these gifts away from a person, how do you think that would change somebody? We'll
I
start
just
with you,
drove.
Mama.
Oops.
What was your question?
So she says that taking away, the gifts, extracting affinities would destroy a person.
Yes.
How do you think, in talking about these gifts that we talked about, how do you think that would change somebody if you took away those gifts?
I feel like they wouldn't be their true selves. I'll just be acting all the time.
If you took away your gifts,
Yeah.
what would that do to you?
Like, how would it internally? Like, instead of, like, how would I proceed? Like, how would I, like, move on with my life? Or, like, how would I live with not having these gifts?
All the above. All the above.
So I feel like I wouldn't be my true self because I would be doing something other than what I am good at, like caregiving.
So would you get that empty feeling that Nishan was talking about?
Yes. And I'd constantly be trying to fill that void, like I said earlier. I'm going blank. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
My brain's all.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think if gifts could be taken away, I think that you would not be living from your true nature.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, there would be a real lack of joy and a real lack of purpose. And the two things that keep people going is joy and purpose.
Right.
And so if gifts are taken away from a person, either by them shutting them off, or they feel like, because they feel like they've been a bad person so they don't deserve them, or something like that, then yes, there is a huge lack of joy.
You do that.
What are you talking about?
You take away your shit because you feel like you don't deserve it.
What are you talking about?
Oh.
Like, what do you mean?
Oh, called out.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You do that all the time. Even
Give
if
me
even
an
if
example.
it even if it doesn't have to do with like your gifts, like with your eating disorder, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
With working, you do it. With
So the basic belief system is that if I am worthy of these gifts needs to be in place for people to really exercise them,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And therefore then they don't put them down or hide them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the verse about hiding your light under a bushel basket?
I don't
So
know
that
that one.
nobody can see it. There's somewhere in the Bible about
Okay.
if you hide your light. We're not called to hide our lights, right, under a basket, because then nobody can see them. So let your light shine. Like remove the basket. Like, I can't think of what it is right now, the exact verse, but you'll find it.
I will.
But you have to believe you have that light, first of all, and
Right.
receive that light
Mm-hmm.
that's been given to you and be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, fear, trauma, you'll cover it up and then you're not living from your true self.
Right.
And then you have lack of joy and purpose.
And nothing goes right.
Yeah, nothing goes well.
True.
And striving.
Yeah.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
all the striving that comes from not being okay with who you are.
Yeah. Yep. And like the constant call outs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're not this and you're not
Mm-hmm.
that. And you're not that. and you know you're not this. And so then you're like, oh, then what am I? When you already know, but you don't want to admit it, and so it just becomes this
Bunny hole
tragic
rabbit.
cycle. So, yeah, I think if you take away somebody's gifts, it takes away, like you said, somebody's joy. It takes away what they're good at. And so, going along with what Mama said that you do, if you take something that you're so used to having that gives you that enjoyment, it's like an addiction. You use something else to fill that. And that may not always necessarily be a good thing.
Truth.
So I think if we took away the gifts and the free will and those kinds of things that we've been given to by our Creator, you know, whoever you think that is, that it takes away you as a person, and you become a robot, because then you're just going and you're falling in line and you're doing what everybody else is doing. When you look at the people who are actually using their gifts, they are not on the path that everybody else is on. They are out there and they're doing innovative things, and they're being creative, and they are putting new perspectives out there, and they're shining lights on some pretty big issues that nobody wants to talk about. And so looking at that, like, if you take all of those, like, what would our world be if people were not stepping into their gifts?
And what would it be if people did?
Oh man, that would be amazing. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like, and I think that's like the biggest thing that I try to do when I am talking with kids. You know, I'm like, well, you know, tell me about yourself. There isn't anything that any kid that I've come in contact with, they have been afraid to tell me anything. And I'm just rolling with it, you know, like, oh yeah, like this is what, okay, well, what else did you see? You know, like, and if you show that it's not like a, oh man, like this is such a bad thing, you're not supposed to be doing this, you're not supposed to be doing that, and how could you, that's not
what we want to hear. We're telling ourselves twice as bad.
Right, you know, so especially if you're disclosing about any gifts that you may have, whether, no matter what kind of gifts they are, I think the acceptance and, you know, the open arms is definitely the way to go in any of that. So, all right, any final thoughts on, you know, any follow-up discussion on anything you want to wrap up? We good?
I think I'm alright.
Yeah, all right. Well, that all being said, I just want to thank Justin Beck for being a sponsor. Thank you for joining us for this episode. This is episode 2 of the new year. Woo! No,
I think this is
three. Yeah, that's 3. Yep. So super excited. So thanks for joining us. Every time when an episode drops, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, email or message on YouTube or any of our other social medias. We are still working on implementing the changes that we have coming in. Hopefully,
it's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress.
We're also busy.
Yeah, we are crazy busy. But social media should be ramping up. We have been hitting Instagram, Facebook. We have some TikToks coming. We will let you know when the actual podcast drop and where those can be found, instead of watching the videos on YouTube. So as soon as I know what's going on, I will let you guys know. So let us know what you think. If you have any thoughts about any of these spiritual gifts, tell us what your spiritual gifts are in the comments. I really want to see what everybody is considering spiritual gifts. There's lots of different lists out there, so I really want to hear your guys' perspective on what you think spiritual gifts are and what you bring to the world around you. I think that'd be really interesting, because I really want to hear your guys' engagement and your perspective on it. So tell us what you think in the comments below. Send this video out to others, and they can tell us what they think their spiritual gifts are too.
Yo!
So thank you for coming. We appreciate you listening and having us. So sorry, words were real hard there for a second.
Hard.
Alrighty, guys. Until next time, we will talk to you later. Okay.
Goodbye.
Thanks, bye.